what would have been the second week of returning to school for children, there was a treasury issue that was pending, and somebody was flipping the massacre at Beslan. There is information, there's a video already online. It was horrible. There was also a report that was attributed to the American Physicians Association that discussed how 44,160 children had been diagnosed with COVID 19. 44,160 children that were of school age and that should have been returning to school had been diagnosed with COVID 19. And at that time, there was a appearance of Donald Trump here in Texas making some sort of handoff to Ted Cruz, and I understood it had been part of a setup. It was as if they were going to volley the well being of actual children in the United States. Now, around this time, somebody wanted to do this inversion. They tried to change the statistics a couple of times with different references, but the first reporting around the school year attributed to the American Physicians Association was 44,166, well, 44,160 children, because it was an inversion of 144 with a point 0.6, and I tracked what exactly it meant at that time, and it still holds to this day. And what has been happening is they keep volleying the safety of children, including children going back to school, which brings up all the antics that teachers and schools have been engaging in by talking about COVID 19 without talking about anything that happened for the 2 to 5 years prior to COVID 19 that I was personally witness to, right? So there's that. But more than that, there is the fact that this has been going on with a concurrent pattern that goes all the way back to Ted Cruz and some major speculation on the USMCA that occurred with a bill that presumably was applauding the American military for their response to the incident involving Soleimani and the murder of Soleimani in Iraq that preceded a downing of a passenger plane from the Ukraine in Iran. And what I understand has happened is that what it was is that bill that Ted Cruz set up and got 43 initial co sponsors on was associated with liens on children of the military, comparable to the liens on children of members of the FBI that had been set up in 2017 that were being intended for flipping to the Department of Energy before Rick Perry left office. And I don't believe that didn't happen. Because even if there was a macabre scenario where you're trying to specifically torture people, including former teachers whose children have been manipulated, there's still the fact that it keeps panning out and you don't do anything else. That is very consistent. It keeps panning out. Backdating, trying to overwrite, trying to rewrite the history, trying to eliminate the chain of events. It doesn't stop the fact that it still persists unimpeded while there's been nothing to stop or forestall it. Each of the 43 teachers from the Ayotzinapa 43 by now, they were kidnapped in 2014. Even if they had only gone to school for 4 years, they would have had 3 years by now, right? They would be going on their third year of unique class rosters. You've been pimping the fucking kid. No, you've been trying to pimp the children I taught in Honduras the same as you tried to pimp those children I taught in Chicago. I didn't know that's what you were doing to those children in Chicago till I went back to Chicago. I didn't confirm how you did it till I got to Texas. You're still fucking doing it. I can hear you. And you've got this horrendous, completely anti Semitic scheme that some sort of fundamentalist Christian is trying to manipulate as if it's some end of times paradigm. And the Jews are Satan. And if you don't kill Satan and or allow for it to be resurrected as a specific and very narrow version of Christian, then all kinds of other suffering ends up occurring. That's not even an accurate reflection of who those students and their families were. This is somebody else's projection. Somebody else is attempting to covet them and impose upon them a form of religious fundamentalism that qualifies literally as a form of terrorism. Now, I'm sorry if you thought you were going to try to make me prove a point with the initial accusations levied immediately following the September 11th inside job. It's unfortunately persisting and continuing, even until last night. It's not just religious fundamentalism that qualifies as terrorism. You're really screwing with a lot of dark spiritual energy and a lot of dark spiritual matters completely recklessly. These things have a critical mass. You've already bored Satan on one level, but you've refused to do anything to allow for an acknowledgement of a counterbalance. There's not really much else that can be done. If I'm correct, and somebody attempted to sabotage what should have been a gesture of good faith of some sort despite all else regarding the relationship between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran, when the 40th anniversary of that executive order implemented by Jimmy Carter came due earlier this year, and you did what I suspect you did, which is you tried to sabotage the vaccines for COVID-19 in Iran in order to strategically murder them as an act of religious fundamentalist fueled violence and murder, then we are at a crucial point right now. Because I don't think you're going to succeed. And not only are you not going to succeed, but you've already banked this wrath of God end times. Anything is justified because God is on our side in a very, very narrow interpretation of Christianized justification. And you did not meet your leverage. And we are not in a position to excuse your intentionally orchestrated absolute commitment with intent to deliver on the genocide of numerous other groups of people because you want to appear yourself as if now you're being persecuted. No, you committed to genociding other groups of people because you misrepresented that you had some godly calling to accomplish it, and God is not on your side. If your own people do not rise up against you and take you out and down first, then they have married themselves to this cause, and they need to be stopped along with you. It's very simple. Even if you decided to make me Richard the Lionheart's mother and put me behind a wall for the entire rest of my life because I was arrogant enough to think that my sons should know how to think independently of the tyranny of their father. Even if you're playing out your own little royal fetish scheme in the name of God and Jerusalem, then you've already, unfortunately, committed yourself to a course of action you do not have the moral authority to prevent against. If they do not rise up against you, then they have as effectively supported you consciously and willingly. You called on genocide of other groups of people knowingly and intentionally in a horrendously orchestrated pageant of infamy and defilement. You don't have the leverage to get away with it. You've signed your own people up for a game of genocide. You've lost. I'm letting you know. I know you've lost. I warned you. I did not want to have to spend another lifetime watching you arrogant, foul men make the same bad decisions you've made over and over again. You made it an all or nothing affair, and you lost. And I am not going to provide you with any charity or any hope or any prayers or any blessings. I could, but they weren't for you. You robbed your own people. And if they let you rob them, then I cannot and will not do anything about it. You had no right to think that you were entitled to orchestrate the genocide of any other group of people. You had no right. There's nothing that can be done to support you. And if you try to gamble and getting away with it and you failed, then all of us are going to have to deal with the consequences of what your arrogance has wrought.